Welcome back to my channel, everybody. This is going to be part 3 of our 5.4 engine noise repair. So we're going to get to the assembly part of this video. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get this oil pump put in here, put the cam phasers on, cam phaser solenoids, and then we'll get into putting the timing components on. So. Pretty snug fit. Torque specification on this application is 89 inch-pounds. But keep in mind you should check a repair manual for your specific make, model, and vehicle and make sure that that's what the specification is. Alright folks, so if you're putting this oil pump in at home, you're going to have to take the wrench, put that bolt in the box in there, and it's got to come in at an angle similar to that. And then I'm going to use a pick to hold that bolt into place while I reposition the wrench. I don't know if you guys can get a good view of that or not. Keep that pick in place until you make sure that that bolt's started in several turns, because the last thing you want it to do is fall out and go rolling back into the oil pan. Or you're going to be pulling the front differential and oil pan and all that stuff. So. Alright, so we're just getting these bolts finished running in here with the wrench. Obviously you can't get a torque wrench in here and torque these. You want to make sure they're tight. Don't start reefing on them and start breaking them off, because they're only 6mm bolts and they'll have to be real tight. Now we are going to install the new drive sprocket on the crankshaft. You'll see one side is inset, one side protrudes. The protruding side goes up. That's where your timing mark is. Okay, so now we're going to start putting the cam phasers on. One thing you want to look for in the back of these cam phasers is make sure it's got the peg in it, make sure it's not bent or anything like that. Being that it's new, all that should be fine. Cam phaser is going to go on. That peg's going to line up with that little groove right there in the bottom of the camshaft. It should slide on there and lock in there nice. If it's kind of kittywampus on there, it doesn't lock in, figure out why. Don't go putting the bolt in there and ramming it in there. You thread the bolt in, just enough to snug it up. Then we're going to put our holding fixture on. Again, this is a 303-1046. You could probably look online. It's an OTC part number, so you can order it from OTC. It's going to make this job a whole lot easier. We're going to torque this bolt to 30 foot-pounds. And go an additional 90 degrees of torque yield rotation on it. Remove our holding fixture. and the cam phaser is installed. Same thing on the other side, and then we'll get to putting the timing chains on. So now the left side timing chain has to go on first. Being that we're putting a new timing chain on, these are already going to come with the links on them that are already marked. But on if you're reusing your timing chains, take your timing chain off, lay it out on the bench, and you should have two links on one end that are side by side, one link on the other end that's across the top like that. And that's how you can mark those out. When I disassemble these, if I'm reusing the timing chains, I don't even bother putting paint marks on before I take them apart, because I already know there's going to be one link across the top and two links straight down at the bottom. So now the two links are going to come up here. They're going to go on top of your cam sprocket. Your single link goes down to the crankshaft. So on the bottom down there, it's going to be hard to see. I'm going to check that with the mirror. Once I put the right hand bank timing chain on, then I'll flip the camera down there and give you a look at what we got going on. Now we're going to install our left side tensioning guide on there. We're going to spray a little brake cleaner on the rag, and we're going to clean up that surface where that timing chain tensioner is going to seal. Now we just pull enough, rotate this camshaft around enough to tighten up the bottom side of this chain and put slack in the top side. That'll aid in getting the tensioner in here. The torque spec on these tensioner bolts is 18 foot-pounds. Once again, you're going to want to verify that based on your application with a repair manual. Take your ratchet and pull up slight tension. Make sure that bottom side of that chain is going to be tight. And then pull that retainer out of that hydraulic tensioner. Now the same thing goes for the right side. It's exactly the same. Once I'm done putting the right side in there, I'll flip the phone over. I'll give you a view of our timing marks. We'll go through and verify that we got the timing correct. And then we'll put our VCT solenoids in and we'll start putting the big engine parts back on. Alright folks, so now you can see we're getting the timing components put in here. We got the timing chains on. We're going to try to give you a view of our timing mark lined up down there on the bottom. So as long as you have your one link lined it up on the bottom and your two links bridge across your indicator on the top, as well as over here, that will verify proper timing on this 5/4. I know if you go in the workshop manual and go through the timing procedure word for word, step by step, you will be off by 1 tooth. I know this because I've done it. I've seen other people do it. Verify your timing that way. 1 on the bottom, 2 on the top, and you're good to go. So we're going to get back to, we're going to put the seals in the front cover. Time to get the front cover put on. Valve covers back on, things like that. So that's basically the reverse process of the disassembly video. So if you didn't see the disassembly video, go back and watch that one. We're going to start putting this thing back together. We'll come back, once I get everything put back together, we'll come back and we'll fire this thing up and we'll see if this kit works or not. As you can see, we got this engine put back together. So we got everything put back together on this engine. What I'm going to do now is prime the oil system, so I'm going to get in there. I'm going to hold it wide open throttle that disables the injectors when you crank it over. I'm going to crank it over a few cycles, try to get some oil built into the system. And then we're going to fire it up. The first time we fire it up, it's going to clatter a bit. Then hopefully it'll quiet out and sound nice. It won't sound like it did at the beginning of the video series here. So let's get the cranking on this thing and see how she sounds. And make sure you're holding this throttle wide open on this thing. And if for some reason it pops off, you want to back off the throttle and the key right away. Shut the key off for a cycle and let your foot off the throttle and then go ahead and start it. Okay, so that time the gauge came up. We're going to go ahead and pop this thing off now. I'm going to get that camera in there a little closer so you can see how it sounds. Plus, if something flies apart, maybe it'll get the camera. So this is about the position the camera was in when you guys listened to it before. So let's fire it up and see how it sounds now. Keep in mind, it is going to clatter on the initial startup. That sounds much quieter. Now granted, this is a cold engine. It's going to have to get warmed up. We got to top off the coolant, drive it a little bit, things like that. But it already sounds much quieter than the engine did before we put these components in. So we're going to top this thing off. We're going to take her for a test drive and see how it sounds after that. So we test drive this stuff, folks. What you're going to want to pay attention for is misfires. Make sure the thing's not overheating. Obviously engine noise, that's what we're trying to fix here. It did lock out the cam phasers and go into a misfire event on one bank, but you want to make sure you got good power, your timing's not off. You can be off one tooth on this thing and it'll be like a dog. It won't wreck the engine, but you're gonna have to tear it back apart and put it back into time. Don't ask me how I know. So usually I kind of want to ease into it a little bit, go easy on it, let things get warmed up, let your timing chain stretch a little bit, get your guides happy, let everything get seated a little bit, and then we'll go back and we'll double check all our fluid levels, and then we'll take her out and open her up, see what she can do. And at some point, we got a few other projects we got to do on this truck. I got it cheap because it does need more than just this engine work. We got to put front struts in it. We got some frame rot. We're going to have to do some repair on the frame before it gets to be a massive structural issue. It's got chattering limited slip clutches in the back, but I don't care. And the muffler's rusted out, so we're just going to straight pipe it. So we'll get on with this test drive, we'll go back and check our fluids, and then we'll go see what this thing can do. Take a listen to that, folks. Sounds pretty darn quiet. Now keep in mind, folks, this is my truck and it was my gamble to put the parts in there. If you're going to take this to a shop, they're going to condemn that engine, and you need to understand why. The bearings were scored in this engine. Did I make it better? Yes. But there's also an assumed responsibility when you pay someone else to fix this, that they're taking a liability risk by fixing it for you. So if you want to do this kind of stuff yourself and assume the risk, that's fine, but don't expect the garage to do it for you. So that wraps up our part 3 of our 5.4 noise issue. We got more stuff to do on this truck. We're going to put some front struts in it, we got some rusty frame to repair, we got some exhaust to fix, things like that, and we'll putz with this thing as we go. I got 4 other vehicles to drive, so I don't really care. We're just going to kind of tinker with it. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time.